Belly fat is the first sign of metabolic syndrome, a cluster of conditions including type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. And that's just the start. It increases your risk of breast, prostate, colon, and lung cancer. It's also been implicated in Alzheimer's disease. If you're struggling with excess belly fat, stick around. In today's video, I show you what's really going on, why this struggle is not your fault, and how you can finally get rid of it. So, what the heck is going on with this belly fat situation? Take a look around and you will see that it's everywhere. About 70% of Americans are overweight or obese, and 86% are overfat, meaning that they have too much fat. Even the guys and girls that look skinny on the outside may be carrying lots of fat and are at risk of disease. What's more alarming to me as a fairly new dad is that over half of American kids are overfat. Starting our kids off on this path is a surefire way of setting them up for all kinds of ailments. God forbid a premature death, because most of the problems we face, from infertility to feeling crummy or tired all the time, blood clots, infections, and a bunch of other issues, are all related to belly fat. The fat that you can pinch, that's called subcutaneous fat. Even though it's a sign of metabolic syndrome, subcutaneous fat is dormant tissue and is pretty safe to carry around. A study done some years ago showed how this kind of fat is not metabolically active. Liposuction was done on an obese woman. They got rid of 40 pounds of subcutaneous fat. However, even though she instantly lost 40 pounds, there was no change in her blood pressure, blood sugar, or any of the markers of poor metabolic health. Liposuction doesn't reach that metabolically active visceral fat. Visceral fat is the fat around your organs like the liver, the kidneys, and intestines. This is the real problem. Unlike subcutaneous fat, visceral fat is metabolically active and is good at doing all the wrong stuff. It's inflammatory, so it results in increased inflammation in the body, and it's associated with increased insulin resistance. That high level of insulin and inflammation drives high triglycerides. There are all kinds of hormones being produced by this fat. This is why you see changes in people's bodies. For example, women with a lot of belly fat will get facial hair and lose the hair on their heads. It causes loss of body hair in men. They get soft skin and end up getting man boobs. Things like low sex drive, acne, sleep apnea, and the majority of nutrition-related ailments that we see as separate, they're all connected by high insulin and lots of oxidative stress from visceral fat. Now, why would this be affecting so many of us at the same time? There's three main reasons. The first is the flawed approach to calorie counting. It's so depressing meeting someone that's struggling to improve their metabolic health, yet all they do is count calories regardless of their quality. The body is a much more complex organism, and not all calories are created equal. 1,000 calories of pizza won't do the same thing as 1,000 calories of lettuce to your metabolic health. Dr. David Ludwig's carbohydrate-insulin hypothesis shows that most of the planet is carbohydrate intolerant. By consuming refined carbohydrates, you're driving weight gain, and eliminating it promotes weight loss. Another interesting guy is Dr. Richard Johnson, an expert on uric acid and belly fat. His take on this is that humans have developed the ability to use sugars to put on fat in times of abundance, which helps us survive periods of lack. With sugary foods, how it works is that the more you eat, the more you want to eat, which makes us overeat when there's an abundance of sugar. The body then stores the excess as fat. Putting on fat is not a bad thing. It's only a problem because we live in an abundance of chemically altered foods that we cannot get enough of. This brings me to the second reason we're all packing on belly fat. We live in a toxic nutritional environment. Finding food that's not going to kill you is almost impossible. If you live in industrialized cities, most of the grocery store is sugar and fructose. For many of us, it's easier to go to the drive-thru for fast food instead of picking up fresh produce to make a meal at home. There's also a lot of marketing that's shoving junk food in our faces, and food delivery apps are making convenient foods even more convenient. This wouldn't be a problem if they sold primarily whole food. Ultra-processed, high-carbohydrate, convenient foods raise insulin, and when there's too much insulin, it stores all the available fuel in the fat cells. The stored fat is never used for energy because we keep eating more insulin spiking food and get stuck in storage mode. And when it does that, it slows down your metabolism, it makes you hungrier, and it causes anxiety and depression. The third reason is the fitness scene. The bar seems to have been raised so high with lots of emphasis on showing up daily. It's easy to just throw in the towel and watch from the sidelines. However, a well-designed exercise program will promote lean muscle mass. Lean muscle mass keeps our insulin sensitive, meaning we can get out of fat storage mode and start tapping into our fat stores for energy. It's much easier to maintain lean muscle mass when you're younger. It gets harder later in life because you start to lose muscle naturally. Muscle loss can be thought of as replacing muscle with fat as you get older. You can be the same weight at 65 as you were at 25, but be twice as fat. And that fat is poor metabolic fat. It's in your muscles, sort of like a marbled steak. At this point, exercise becomes non-negotiable. You might be exercising a good amount, but if you're not working hard to maintain that good lean muscle mass, it will be very easy to put on fat. If you don't know much about exercise programming, I would suggest finding a good personal trainer or health coach or both. How do you get out of this downward spiral? As much as it's a huge problem, it's easy to fix. And it's not through the ab roller or whatever other tools you have been sold to get your abs right. Our bodies adapted to storing as much fat as possible, as quickly as possible when we have an abundance of sugar calories. A good example of how to manage this mammalian trait is with bears. Bears hunt salmon in the early part of the summer and they don't gain much weight. They then go up in the mountains at the end of the summer and eat berries, gaining up to 500 pounds of fat by essentially eating sugar, and then they hibernate, so they lose all the weight through the winter. We just keep eating, so we must stop overeating and eating the wrong foods. The science of all this stuff may sound complex, but the prescription is that simple. The problem of weight gain is a problem of too much insulin, so you need to eat a low insulin spiking diet by bringing down the percentage of calories you're getting from refined and processed carbohydrates. Get rid of the sugary drinks and wheat. If you have a lot of belly fat, you need to be more strict, like no sugar, grains, beans, or even some fruit. And then as you become more metabolically healthy and resilient, you can add things back. You can eat some cake and stuff like that occasionally, but it's key to be religious about it in the beginning. There are lots of approaches to eating more fat and less sugar. The key is to lower the amount of insulin and turn on all the other signals that make you burn fat without counting calories. Time restricted eating, intermittent fasting, keto, and fasting mimicking diets do the same thing. They give your body a break or a period of non-eating or the appearance of not eating. Other things would be to avoid snacking and eating meals late at night. If you eat and you immediately go to bed, you store most of that food as fat. Also, manage your stress. Chronic stress is akin to inflammation. Pray, meditate, and start forgiving your enemies. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you picked something up from this video and you can use it in your life. I'll see you on the next one. To your health.